Hello and welcome to The Hero Spouse. I'm Kenda Ruth, here to answer one of your questions about marriage and midlife crisis. Today we have an anonymous female left behind spouse. Her bomb drop is March of 2020. Date of marriage is 2013. She has a clinging boomerang who is a high energy replayer. She first has a question about addiction and MLC. After bomb drop, I discovered my husband not only had an alienator, but to my shock, I discovered what looked like sex addiction. Lots of porn, sex rooms, go-go bars. And then his problems with alcohol started. His alienator is a bartender who drinks quite a lot. Now he is a heavy drinker himself. They party together. He misses work. It's sad to watch. Are addictions typical for midlife crisis? Those weren't problems during our 10 years of life together, but his friends say these had been somewhat present before he met me. Is it possible he just managed to stop or control those addictions for 10 years and then they resurfaced? Or is it just another symptom of midlife crisis? It's both. Addictions are a symptom of midlife crisis because midlife crisis is an avoidance. Remember, there's midlife transition, and midlife crisis is a type of transition that is at crisis levels because they are avoiding the transition. So they're going to do all sorts of things to avoid that. And addictions are a great deflection. But they also regress. They regress to their younger selves, their less mature selves. 17 is a very common one, but the bachelor party life. You're describing, he is doing the bachelor party life to a T. So, and that was common for his bachelor party life prior to your being together. So he's regressed to a time of, we don't even have to call it addiction, but heavy drinking, obsessive drinking. We do have those who are addicts who will either return to previous addictions or start new ones. They replace them. So we've had alcoholics who haven't started drinking alcohol again, but they've gone toward other addictions, some of them other substances that are just as dangerous, if not worse, and some of them other addictions that aren't substance abuse, but are porn or gambling. So everything you're describing there is normal, and addiction is, or let's just say substance and drug abuse, whether it's addicting to certain people or not. Yes, absolutely. Substance, drug abuse, porn. Porn is rampant in society regardless of midlife crisis. And gambling. They will return to those. And we're seeing a lot of that. If you go to the forums, you might see some of the people describing that. There was a recent thread asking about addictions, in fact, on the Facebook group. She then asks about custody, children, and the alienator and visitation. So let's look at that. She says, my ex-husband wants more time with our son 5 and our daughter 9. As of now, he has them every other weekend, but then he wants to come in between. I know he misses them, but there's also the cake eating. I'm going to stop for a moment and say, you know he misses them. I'm glad that you're acknowledging it's both of you. The cake eating can be an issue, and we do want to work on that. Let's set that aside for a moment. Let's say there weren't cake eating. There's not always a problem with visitation that's between the required times. Sometimes that's how parents handle it. Sometimes, well, I have to work late. Can you take them to their basketball game? That sort of thing. Sometimes a parent can have them on Wednesday afternoons for dinner, that sort of thing. The problem, I think, with you is the cake eating and how that's affecting it because he's doing it and involving the cake eating with it. But let's go on. When I place boundaries, he threatens he'll go to court to get more visitations. He knows I miss them. It's very stressful and a form of emotional blackmail. You're correct. It is a form of emotional blackmail because he's using that against you. Also, I struggle with the fact that they're around the alienator who I can't stand. Now, you know, it doesn't matter whether you like her or not. If she's dangerous or if she's not is what matters. Okay. It's not quality time either. A replay dad who makes parties when the kids are there. They see drunk adults partying in a pool. They go to sleep at crazy times. He drinks and drives. That's the big one right there. I want you to highlight that one. He drinks and drives. Are they in the car? Obviously even worse. But even if they're not, that's a problem. There's ice cream for breakfast and he uses treats and toys to get them to visit him. My lawyer says there's nothing I can do. I'm not a lawyer, but I hope that's not true. Because courts don't enforce quality time, then don't complain about quality time. You have other things to complain about. Okay, you reframe it. And the lawyer advised I move far away from him. That depends. I don't like the moving ideas. Are you in a permanent location? In other words, are you in your house or a rental? Are you in an apartment? I'm in my home. I own this. Somebody says, well, you need to move. What does that entail? Just looking around the room I'm in right now, it entails several 7-foot bookshelves which are full, and some shorter bookshelves which are full. I mean, my life. And then moving 5 kids, packing. And then not just packing, but, oh, you mean I have to sell my house, or I have to find a rental. I have to find a new place. Do I have a job that I need? Do I have to commute to that job because you're trying to move farther away? So now I have to find a job or not. So that's a big thing for the lawyer to advise you to do. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It doesn't mean it's right. But it is a big thing. If you don't have roots in that place, it's something to think about. If you're in an apartment and you're in a job that can move you, or you don't have to go find a job somewhere because you're fine. And it's a consideration, but it still takes a lot, just the process of moving. I don't know what to do. I worry and miss my son and daughter when they're away like he does in his in-between time. Is it normal or am I paranoid? First thing, it could be both. You might be normal and paranoid. I don't think you're paranoid. I don't think you're paranoid because complaining about somebody that is drinking and driving, having alcohol parties with kids present, isn't paranoia. If you were complaining that, well, they go to bed too late sometimes and he gets some ice cream for breakfast, then you would be complaining. Yeah, that's not great. It's not even good. But we're talking about different levels of safety. He is not being safe with your children. He is neglecting them. If he is having parties, there's alcohol. It doesn't matter that they're drunk. Well, I understand what you say. Drunk adults partying in a pool, they're more likely to have drownings. But they're drunk. They're adults. And they're partying, regardless of where they're partying. I mean, are they partying at a field with cars? Freaky. Also, it's that they are partying there. And when they're doing that, they're not taking good care of children. They're neglecting. But not only that, he is not a credible source for detecting danger in others. He is opening your children up to predators. And I don't mean strangers that have crashed the party. I mean, hey, maybe the alienator's brother is not safe. Her uncle. Other people who could be predators towards your children. He does not have the right detectors up because he is using, he is abusing, and he's in limerence as well. Although I would not point that part out. But his focus is not your children's safety. He thinks it is. And if you say your focus is not your children's safety, he will get really upset. Instead, you point out the places it isn't. And the places it isn't is his substance abuse. To the point that he is having adult parties in their children's presence, and he's even been drinking and driving at times. Whether they're present or not, that's dangerous. Okay? That's what you use at court. Now, don't use I miss them, because he misses them. And that's valid for both of you. I want you to go to the boundaries now. When I place boundaries, he threatens he'll go to court to get more visitations. You don't want to be afraid. You want to be mama bear. It's always a risk. You place a boundary, and then what if he follows through? Okay, now he's followed through. Now you're at court. You have ammunition. Now, I'm not going to tell you that the court's going to go your way or his way or whatever. I'm sad it's costing and that it's creating greater conflict. But those babies, standing for your marriage and reconciliation isn't your first priority. Protecting the babies is. That's your first priority. And you protect them at all cost. So you say, okay, if that's what you feel you need to do, then you can do that. At first, so you're calling a bluff, whether it's a bluff or not. Now you'll find out, and he'll take them. Now, say it's not a bluff. He takes you to court. Then you present your evidence, and it needs to be evidence. How do you know he drinks and drives? I do want you to tell him, I'm concerned that he's drinking and driving, but that can make it sound as though you're overboard or you're making up things. What kind of evidence can you get regarding parties with alcohol without having your kids have to testify if possible, without you bringing it out of them, without you grooming or coaching, that's the word, coaching your kids, asking them the questions, because then it's mom is asking questions. She's coaching the kids. She's getting them to say those things. What can you do? I don't know. I don't have answers. Those are the questions, and you can ask your lawyer. I know that he does these things because my children have told me. But how do we use what they've told me without me asking them and leading them in a question to coach them, without being accused of coaching them, and without traumatizing them or getting them to take sides? There's got to be ways to do that. I don't know what they are, but I want you to think about that. Because you need to stop worrying about what he's going to do if you hold those boundaries. Those boundaries are for the protection of you and the children as well. It's not just so that you can reconcile someday. Those children need protecting. Okay? I hope this was helpful, and we'll see everybody in the next question.